How's it going, Knicks fans? Welcome back to Fireside Knicks with your boys, Alex and Ryan. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Daily content on all platforms. Appreciate you guys. As always, we've got a big series coming up against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and Donovan Mitchell has definitely said some things, and he wants to get the most out of that squad. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell always wanted to be a Knick, grew up in Brooklyn. He's someone that was rumored heavily to be a Knick, and of course, he wouldn't have it any other way. That's his quote. He wouldn't have it any other way than to be playing the Knicks in the first series of the playoffs. And obviously, we need some players to step up. Julius Randle, the reports are indicating he could play for game one. We don't know if he will. The strategy definitely will be interesting depending on how he feels about that ankle. He's out of the boot. He's taking shots. He's making good progress. All optimistic, all positive. But you don't want to re-aggravate that injury in the first game of the series. You want to be careful. You want to put him on a minutes count. You want to make sure he's good. Get it kind of, get his legs under him. Let him get his sea legs and kind of feel out that injury, see if he can bounce back and it doesn't hurt him too much. You don't want to overwork someone like that if they're coming off an ankle sprain. So definitely an interesting scenario there, but there are three guys we have in mind that can elevate their game and help out a little bit. Obviously, we need everybody to elevate their game. That goes kind of unspoken, but there's three players in mind that we have specifically that should really, needs to play a little bit above their weight class because they have some really, really tough tasks in this upcoming series. Ryan, before we dive into the good stuff, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. As you mentioned, Knicks postseason basketball. It doesn't get more exciting than that. And this is a big series for the Knicks, right? If you go out there and you compete, you feel like you're not the favorites in this series. I think the betting odds reflect that. If you're able to compete in this series, make it a 6-7 game series, or if you flat out just win it, that's gonna be monumental for this franchise. That's a huge step in the right direction, right? I feel like this team just needs the postseason experience. This team just needs a taste of some postseason success so that they can continue to build on that for next year, right? Is this team coming into this postseason with an expectation to go out and win the NBA Finals? No. Has this team already accomplished enough to consider this season pretty successful? Yes, I say this is one of the better outcomes for the Knicks. But you feel like you don't want to sell this team's ceiling short. You don't want to go out there and say, oh, well, it doesn't matter what happens in the postseason. If they get swept, you're going to feel pretty disappointed, right? If they get beat down, you're going to feel pretty disappointed. This is huge for this team. And as you mentioned, the Randle news are encouraging because there's a chance. We talked about that, whether we want to see him there or not. We'd rather kind of not rush him back. But if he's cleared to go medically, I'm no doctor. I'm not going to, advocate against it. But one of the big guys who have to step up in this series is RJ Barrett, right? He has struggled all year. He has been really just inconsistent. The defense has taken a massive regression. The offensive numbers in terms of points per game are still good looking, but the three-point shot isn't there, right? He has not found efficiency. He has just been a shell of himself, right? And if you look at the team, how the Knicks, their net rating with him off the court, it's a dramatic difference. This isn't, just an eye test thing. This is, the numbers prove it. The eye test proves it. He just doesn't really, he has not given a lot of positive contributions to the Knicks this year. And that's going to put his playoff minutes in question, right? Quentin Grimes has been excellent to end the season. Josh Hart has been excellent since being acquired. I mean, I don't really have to say much about Emmanuel Quickley. We know what Emmanuel Quickley is capable of and what he's doing. Jalen Brunson, obviously. So those are, that's a guard, a wing, a guard, and a wing that are going to currently be better than RJ Barrett as an option for you in the postseason. So if you're RJ Barrett, what is your role? How are the Knicks going to play you? How are the Knicks going to utilize you? Are you closing in the fourth quarter? That's all going to depend, I think, on that first game. If he goes out there and he really struggles, I don't know how many minutes he's going to get in the postseason. I don't know how much you're going to rely on him to play. He's someone that's important for the second unit when he's going right, because unlike a lot of the guys in the second unit, he's a shot creator. He's pretty aggressive with his shot. He will go out there and he'll force something. I'm not saying that, Toppin is doesn't know how to score, but he obviously isn't going to be as aggressive as a RJ Barrett, because one of these guys are an established NBA player and has many more years of experience and more points per game and all that stuff, whereas Toppin doesn't necessarily have the offensive bag that RJ Barrett does. So this is a huge series for him. And it's going to also reflect a lot of his future in New York. If he goes out there and he struggles, it's going to leave a bad taste in the mouth of a lot of Knicks fans and the organization. You're going to look and you're going to say, if the Knicks lose in this series and RJ Barrett plays poorly and it comes down to 6 or 7 games, you're going to feel like, hey, if the Knicks didn't play RJ Barrett, if the Knicks had someone instead of RJ Barrett, like a league average player, maybe they would have won that series, right? So I'm personally rooting for him to go out there and succeed, not just because he's a New York Knick, but because I want him to be able to turn around that narrative. A good postseason series for RJ Barrett changed a lot of the conversations about RJ Barrett this year, and you feel like you can build on that going into next year. So I don't know what you think about that, but RJ Barrett's kind of the big one.
You're right. RJ Barrett is probably the biggest one because, the way I saw it this year was when, Julius Randle came off the floor, Jalen Brunson came off the floor. It was RJ Barrett's second team to run. He was there to maintain the offensive pace of that team. And instead, Emmanuel quickly said, "Move over, RJ. I'll handle the load." And quickly went out there and kicked ass. And that's what he's become. Quickly, he's become the leader of that second unit. He's played so well in the second unit. He's getting minutes in the first unit. He's taking over starting minutes at times when the guys are injured. So, RJ's completely lost that kind of like hidden position battle to quickly in terms of who was going to be the focal offensive point on the second team. And RJ's just completely become a role player. He hasn't become a focal point. He's really fallen into just a role player, and that's unfortunate because they paid him big money and they wanted him to develop into that guy. Now, let me get one thing out of the way. RJ Barrett is really young, right? He 23 years old. RJ Barrett can't be any more than that age. Maybe 24. He might be younger than that. Do you know? He's 22. He's not even 23, yeah. Right? Look, RJ Barrett is a child, okay? He is so far away from being a fully developed product. He is so far away from being everything that we know he can be. We just get lost in it because he's been in the league for 4 years. He's been in the league since he was like 19 years old, 18 years old, right? So you really look at him and you ask yourself, why isn't he there yet? Because he's still 22. The guy just started drinking beer in Manhattan, for God's sake. You know what I mean? This is such a young player. And I'm giving him the leash because he is young and he's still very raw in a lot of parts of his game. And he's still averaging near 20 points a game. But, as you said, he's having a relative down year defensively. And this is a player that prides himself on his defense, right? He wanted to be defensive of the year last year, and this year as well. And, that's kind of where he holds his value. And it just hasn't been that. If RJ Barrett wants to make a positive impact on this team during the playoffs, it's going to be through his defense, in my opinion. You know what I mean? You have a lot of high-octane, potent scorers. Jalen Brunson, Grimes, who we're going to talk about in a moment. Obviously, Randall, Quickly. All of these guys are like potent scorers. But RJ Barrett, that hasn't been there for him. And when you're struggling offensively, you got to step it up on other parts of your game. The defensive metrics need to get better. They need to be more consistent. He's got to show up defensively to at least prove to Tom Thibodeau, even if I'm not scoring well, I can come back on the next series and I can get it. I can grab a steal. I can put it home. I can, whatever it might be, block a shot. I can lock down whoever it is. I can, jump in the way and interfere with a 3-point shot and at least help that go, unsuccessful. There's so many things you can do as a defensive piece just to make minor impacts, and RJ Barrett has failed to do that at times. But I do think he when he's at the top of his game, not only is a great defender, but he's also a very efficient scorer. When he's driving the paint, when he's aggressive, that's when I think we see the best version of RJ Barrett, when he's aggressive and he's confident and he's running into the paint and he's making moves and he's using that left hand to score. That's when we see the best version of RJ Barrett. We've seen him just try to rely a little bit too much on the shooting attempts at times. As you said, those 3-point attempts, he's down to 31% this year. If I were the Knicks, I would tell him to get the hell away from the 3-point line. Go in. The second you get that ball in the corner, drive the baseline. Drive the baseline. Use that left hand. Go around it under the basket. Draw defenders in. Pass the ball out. Whatever it might be. Make an impact. But the aggression from RJ Barrett hasn't been there at times, and that's been a little bit concerning to me. I want him to be confident. I want him to be driving into the paint. But with that being said, Cleveland is a very good interior, has a very good interior defense. Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, they're very good in there, and you really got to beat them via shooting. So, with that being said, I think that if RJ is to lose any minutes, it's because the matchup is bad for him. I think it's because you want your best shooters on the floor, and he unfortunately just isn't a best shooter right now, but that doesn't mean he can't be in the future. Like I said, very young, still developing, a lot of time left for him to take that big step forward. This year, it is what it is. You kind of hope he bounces back in the postseason, but I'm not expecting a ton of improvement. But with that being said, let's head over to Quentin Grimes for a second. This is a player who, as you said, ended the season very strong, but he needs to step up in the playoffs. This is where he's going to make a big impact. Donovan Mitchell, he's going to be guarding him a lot. That's where you're going to see Quentin Grimes on Donovan Mitchell. Can you stop him, one of the league's elite scorers? Absolutely not. Can you limit him? You can try, but it's going to be easier said than done. If Quentin Grimes wants to make an impact in this game, it's going to be defensively. But he's also, very good 3-point shooter. We're confident in him making those shots. We're confident in him scoring. He's shooting 38.6% from beyond the arc this year. In the month of April, he's averaging 25 points a game. He's shooting 46.5% from three and a 56.3% field goal rate. He's been electric over the past couple of days. But that being said, the defense is going to really show up here against Donovan Mitchell. That's where he can make his biggest impact. Of course, in the offensive sides, we know he's consistent in those categories. But, when it comes to Grimes, where do you think he has to shine here? How do you think he steps up? And why do you think he can be a catalyst for the Knicks in this series?
Yeah, so Quentin Grimes specifically wanted to be more aggressive kind of later in the season. Obviously that went up when the starters weren't playing in those final few games once the Knicks clinched the 5th seed. But there are going to be shots that are available, right? If Randall doesn't play, there are definitely going to be shots that are available. Even if Randall does play, as you mentioned, they are a strong interior defense. You want to kind of draw them to the perimeter. You want to get guys like Donovan Mitchell on a defensive matchup. Quentin Grimes is a quick trigger with his 3-point shot. I don't know if you see that shot, man. Sometimes it's just quick. Like, he can get the ball catch release. I mean, on the catch and shoot, he can be lethal, right? He shot 38.6% from 3, yes, but on nearly 6 attempts. So the volume is there, right? He can be a pretty damn good shooter, and he's trending in the right direction. The shot selection's pretty good. He even has, if you look at his 2-point percentage, it's elite, right? Like, he can drive to the basket if need be. This is a pretty talented scorer. I don't think Quentin Grimes is just a catch and shoot 3-point guy, right? As you mentioned, the defense is big for Quentin Grimes. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland are going to give the Knicks they're going to give the Knicks a fit defensively. But if you can limit them, if you can make sure that, yes, Donovan Mitchell, you're not going to hold him to 10 points a game. That's not happening, right? If you hold him to 10 minutes a game, maybe I start dunking. Maybe that'll happen in that same universe, right? But, Donovan Mitchell, he's going to go out and score. You just have to make sure he doesn't give you, 50, right? If you can hold him, if you can stop him from getting every shot he wants, you can hold down other guys on the team. If Donovan Mitchell gets 30, right, they still need to score 60, 70 more points to even have a conversation of winning the game, right? You need to shut down everything outside of Donovan Mitchell. They are not a team that ranks very well in offensive rating. It's going to be kind of a defensive slog. You're not going to get a lot of efficient shooting nights in the New York Knicks. But as you mentioned, if they can get hot from 3, that can determine a series. All it really takes is getting hot from 3 when you're talking about two teams that are as evenly matched as the Knicks and the Cavaliers are. And Grimes has had some pretty decent success against Mitchell in the past. He hasn't torched the Knicks this year. Now, he had that big game, at the end of the year where he just, he went off, but Brunson was able to outduel him, and the Knicks were able to pull away with a win. But for the most part, Grimes has kept Mitchell a little as close to at bay as you can keep an explosive scorer like Mitchell at bay. And end of the day, again, the shot's falling. If that happens, if the defense is solid, you're going to love what you get from Quentin Grimes. He's going to be a huge catalyst for this series. I feel like you kind of know what you're getting from Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, and obviously those two guys, huge factors. If they don't play well, this team's not going to win the series. But those guys like Quentin Grimes, those guys like Josh Hart, those role players who, I don't use role player in an insulting way. I actually use it in a positive way. Being a good role player on a playoff team is very underrated. And Quentin Grimes has been a good role player on a good playoff team. And I think there's potential for him to play up a little bit more than that and kind of show out a little bit here. A good postseason series really raised his stock. This is just a year 2 player. He's also only 22 years old, right? Like, he's also extremely young. The sky's still the limit for this kid, and he took a massive scoring leap and a massive efficiency leap. So I'm really excited to see what he can give the Knicks in this series. I'm so pumped to see what he can give us this series. I think he can really step up and have a big series.
Absolutely. I mean, look, Grimes just has that veteran moxie about him, which is really exciting for Knicks fans, and us especially. We love him. But what we like about Quentin Grimes is he could be one of the best 3-and-D guys in the league. I actually see that for him being one of the best 3-and-D guys in the league. But I'd even go out on a limb and say I think he could be more than a 3-and-D guy. You watch the athleticism he has. You watch the ability for him to drive the lane. You watch the ability of that aggression that he contains, the elbow jumpers. Like, he is very good everywhere. But with that being said, the Knicks have kind of utilized in that 3-and-D approach, having him kind of be that sharpshooter, play really good defense. But I think that we could see his game expand in the future. I really do think that, he's a good ball handler. He's never going to be a point guard, always going to be kind of that shooting guard aspect. But I do really think that his role could be a lot more expansive in the future. I think this year we're going to see that 3-and-D, value come to life in the postseason as it has at the end of the campaign. He's shooting excellent, and that's where you're going to see him just dominate. It's being an elite 3-point shooter with great defense is a really good thing to have. That's a really good player in the NBA. Think about how many great players that we've seen in the past. And, Klay Thomas is kind of like that. You look at ultimately, maybe not the best defensive player in the world, but he is an elite 3-point shooter. He's an elite scorer. I would love Grimes to kind of follow a similar suit. Obviously, that would be the best case scenario, him becoming Klay Thomas. But ultimately, I do think that Grimes is just tapping into that potential now. I think there's a lot of juice left to be had, and I do think that what his game is going to end up being is going to look a little bit different than what it is right now, which is a very exciting thing because that just means he's building upon strengths. But the number one guy here that I think has to step up, aside from RJ Barrett and Grimes, is Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson had 20 rebounds against the Indiana Pacers. He was sick. The last 3 games of the season with Julius Randle out, he was ridiculous. But Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, really good rebounders. Mitchell Robinson's going to have to step up and dominate the paint. He's going to have to show that aggression. He's going to have to do the cardio. I know he doesn't like it. I know he wants to be a scorer. He's going to have to run the floor. He's going to have to be aggressive. This is a player who can be the difference between the Knicks winning and losing this game because of the offensive rebounds. If he can get a lot of offensive rebounds like Jared Allen does for that team, Evan Mobley gets a lot as well, he can be a catalyst for the Knicks here. Those rebounds, kick it out to Grimes, bam, that's 3 points that he didn't have before. Mitchell Robinson could be the difference in winning and losing this game because of his defense as well. He has 7 blocks apiece in his last 2 games. The defense has showed up. The rebounding has showed up. He's been scoring a little bit more recently with Randle off the floor. He looks a lot more comfortable. Ryan, when you're looking at Mitchell Robinson, what do you think about him and the catalyst he can be in this series?
I didn't really think of Mitchell Robinson when you initially mentioned the topic, but man, that's a great selection right there. You're right. The Cavs have, again, they have great interior presence. This is a team that's going to go out and they're going to dominate, or at least they anticipate to dominate the rebound statistics against the Knicks. If Mitchell Robinson can have a big series, if Mitchell Robinson can get the job done and play a little, we know he's a good center, but can he play a little bit higher than that? Like, can he elevate his game just a little bit? If you can do that, man, and you take a lot of those second possession points for the Cavaliers, you're going to create a lot of issues for them. You're going to create a lot of situations where they're going to have some troubles, scoring the basketball. If you limit the amount of shots the team is going to get, if you take away some of their second possession points, they're going to really struggle, right? And as you mentioned, offensive boards, getting the Knicks second point possessions, right? The Cavs have done a really good job at limiting other teams from taking, missing a shot, getting on offensive rebound and getting a second shot in. If the Knicks can do that well, and we know Josh Hart's a good rebounding guard as well, so it's not like Mitchell Robinson's going to be all alone out there, right? Randle averaged quite a few rebounds as well this year too. So, you're looking at those guys, yes, to rebound, but Mitchell Robinson's the big presence there because he doesn't have as big of a scoring load as other guys. If he's averaging 2 field goal attempts a game this series, I don't really care as long as he gives me great defense. Like, there are going to be people who are going to post like, oh, look at his points in this game. But you know what? The impact. I care about the impact. I care about the offensive boards. How many times is Mitchell Robinson going to give us a chance to get a second shot, right? Because again, this team isn't super efficient from 3. They don't take a lot of threes and hit a lot of threes. They're not, again, this team is not the 2015 or 2016 Golden State Warriors, to keep drawing comparisons to like Klay Thompson. I'm going to keep the theme there. But if you give them a lot of attempts from 3, if you give them a lot of opportunities to shoot the basketball, they're going to make you pay. And you're also going to tire out the defense. You're going to maintain possession a lot more. You can run out the clock a little bit. You want to just control the game, right? The Cavs are not the type of team that, you're up 20 and they just drop 70 on you in the second half. That's not the Cleveland Cavaliers. What they do very well, though, is, they'll get out to an early lead and they'll just hold you down. You just cannot get into the scoring sheet. You cannot get on a run. They're very similar to a run-first offense in the NFL, where, they're not going to come back down 2 possessions, but if they go up 2 possessions, you're kind of screwed. Kind of like a Philadelphia Eagles type of team, right, where they go up 2 scores and they can run the ball so well and kind of milk the clock and you're screwed, right? You can't get back into the game. That's how the Cavs are going to beat you, with defense, time of possession, all of those things. If the Knicks can chip away at those things, and Mitchell Robinson's going to play a huge role in that, you take away what they do well, you're going to beat the crap out of them. You're not going to just beat them. You beat the crap out of them if you take away their ability to do that. So I definitely think that that's a great pull, because I wasn't really sure who you're going to go with that third guy, but Robinson, phenomenal pull there. I think that's the right guy to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's the reality of the situation, is that Cleveland is an elite rebounding team. A lot of aggression, a lot of physicality. Mitchell's got to be there. He's got to be in the paint. He's got to be dominating. He's got to show that positioning prowess. He's got to show that aggressiveness, and he could be a difference maker. He will be a difference maker in this contest, so I'm definitely excited to see what this Knicks team can do. We got 4 days until the start of the series, my friends. We're getting anxious, but we're excited. We got you guys covered here on Fireside Knicks with all of the updates and news. As always, appreciate all the love. Make sure to like and subscribe as always, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.